I'm in Shenandoah National Park. I'm in the Southern District at Powell Gap. This is mile marker 70. Yep, the gray ghost is here. Right over there, hard to see, is the Appalachian Trail. I'm going to start out on that. And we're going to climb this good portion of this mountain here called Roundtop. I saw some old abandoned roads on a 1939 map, I think it was. Gonna go check some of them out. Here's Skyline Drive. And back around. So I'm going to close up and head over to the Appalachian Trail and start climbing this mountain. The elevation here is 2295. Four-tenths of a mile into my hike, I'm up to 2,400 feet. That's where I came from, hiking up the Appalachian Trail here. The AT continues on up this way, but I'm going to veer off and start going down this old abandoned road. According to the old maps, this wraps all the way around the mountain, and goes past 3 different homesteads. So we'll see what we can find. .45 miles into my hike. The elevation here is 2410, and so far, wow, look at this. It's pretty smooth sailing. I don't think this is going to last though, but anyway, this is the way we're headed to my next waypoint, which will be waypoint 3. Six-tenths of a mile into my hike. The elevation here is 2380, and that's the way I'm headed. Here's where I came from. Still pretty clear, amazingly clear. Now, over that way is supposed to be a homestead. I don't know. I'm gonna. It's looking pretty gnarly in there. I may poke my head in for a second and just take a quick look. If it looks like I can get anywhere, I'll go. If not, I'm just going to come back and continue on with this marvelous road. .66 miles into my hike. The elevation here is 2375. And I'm at my waypoint 4. That's the way I'm headed. That'll be my waypoint 5. Should put me near a creek or feeder stream. And look at this. So far, man, this road is armored up left and right. Look at that. There's where I came from. Up there around that bend is where I stopped to take a little peek over this way for the homestead. Let's call it homestead number 1. it was about 350 feet pushing into some brush, so I decided not to bother. I want to get a good track for this road if it does go all the way around the mountain. Now when you get up here to this next waypoint, waypoint 5, the map shows it going from a double line to a single line, so I don't know. We'll see what happens when we get there. Somebody's maintaining this road, because that's where I came from. I mean, it's in amazingly good condition for an abandoned road here in the park. And look at this, freshly cut wood. That's a tree that blew across the trail here, or the road. See, there's another section of it. And then over here is another piece, freshly cut. And just looking right down there, I see what kind of fresh sawdust from a chainsaw. Amazing. Uh-oh. There's a branch here. I got to decide what I'm going to do. Let me check my maps. Oh, man. Okay, I'll point this out when I do my map talk. Where I am right now is exactly where the old map showed a branching off. To the right and to the left, theoretically rejoining each other, but I'm going to take the left. I'm going to take the left one because this looked like the more direct route across the creek and up the other side, which is up that way, which is where we're headed. So I'm gonna go left. Well, right around waypoint 5 or so, which I was not that close to waypoint 5. I was just following the road. I crossed a stream, which I'll point out on the map. Then now I'm looking for waypoint 6, but this road has turned itself into more like a trail. That's the second tree I've passed that had some surveyor's tape on it. I'm going to follow this down a little further to establish a GPS track, and then I'm going to check against the map. I'm not so sure I'm going in the right direction, so it could be once you cross that stream back there that's the end of the line these days. I don't know. Let's see. .1 miles into my hike. The elevation here is 2370. I'm about 130 feet from my waypoint 7, which is supposed to be on the trail. Here's the trail I've been following. That's where I came from. Now, the map showed the waypoint being over here about 125, 130 feet, which is off. But anyway, and also the road has become not quite as well maintained. But I'm going to continue on up this way, to my waypoint 8. Waypoint 8 should put me at some kind of an intersection up here, and I'll make a right-hand turn, and then I'll start looping my way back towards the Appalachian Trail, hopefully. It's a little more difficult to follow the trail now, but there's another piece of surveyor's tape wrapped around that little tree. And look right here, somebody recently cut this out. See where it was laying? So let's just keep going. 1.2 miles into my hike. The elevation here is 2410, and I don't see any way out of here except for the way I came in. But anyway, look at this. Now I know why this trail's been being maintained, because there's a graveyard here. It's fairly expansive, and there's those boxwoods over there. I'll have to see if there's anything planted in between them, or buried, I should say. Here's a surveyor's tape around that trunk of that tree, and there's a metal stake they drove into the ground. I presumably that shows the extent, the edge of the cemetery. I'll go in here and I'll record the GPS position, and the ones that have names, I'll take pictures of them, because I have no idea what cemetery this is. This one's really hard to read. It looks like it says, at the very top, I can't read it. Then it says MJL or MJI, was born the 30th of November 1855, died 26th December 1855, I guess. Must have been an infant. Born in November, died in December, it looks like. Okay, well, I saved the coordinates of this cemetery, but now that I'm looking at my map, I realize this is the same location as my Roundtop homestead number 2. So, I mean, you know, there'd have to be a homestead close to a cemetery this size, and according to my maps, this was it. So, I'll look around for any evidence of, you know, of old buildings or anything, but I don't see any. Okay, well, the cemetery's right there, and I was headed this way to my next waypoint, which was 8 and 9 up that way. Then I saw this this ditch here. This looks like an old road. This could have been the road coming down here. So I think I'm going to change my plan and just hike. And this is heading in a direction. My waypoint 10 is right up there in that direction. So I think I'm just going to hike up this way until I hopefully run into the road that's up here. If not, I'm going to just be bushwhacking on compass bearings until I get back to the AT. .5 miles into my hike. The elevation here is 2510. I'm standing in the vicinity of my waypoint 10, but I don't see a road. I am up on flat ground. I'll do a 360 here. Now, my next waypoint 11 is up there over that rise. That doesn't look terribly hard to get to. And then down the hill a ways that way is the cemetery and the way I came. So I don't see a road here, but you know, flat ground like this after 100 years, the roads do tend to fill in. They tend to stay on a slope, but flat ground like this, they tend to fill in. So I don't know. Instead of backtracking, I think I'm just going to push on. That doesn't look too terribly hard to get over there. Okay, well, leaving waypoint 10 and heading to 11, I did find the road. This is it right here. It's all filled in, but there's some rocks all lined up right there. That was what caught my eye. All these rocks here are lined up, heading up in that direction. And then over here looks a little bit dug out to me. So I guess the road heads up this way. I'll get a bearing and check my maps and stuff and see if this is where I want to go or not. But anyway, I'll mark this with my GPS. This is definitely the road here at waypoint 10. .7 miles into my hike. The elevation here is 2610. I finally found the road. I'm in between waypoints 10 and 11, heading towards 11. That's the way I'm headed. Maybe you can see the road. I was hiking down there at the bottom of this hill, right down there. But the road is a little higher up than what I was expecting. And there it is heading back towards the way I came. So I'll mark this point here. I'm not going to bother backtracking. But hopefully I can follow this from... I'm hoping to follow this around the side of this mountain back to the Appalachian Trail, or close to it. .75 miles into my hike. The elevation here is 2650. That's the way I'm headed. I'm approximately at my waypoint 11. The map was off a little bit. It's showing me about maybe 150 feet down that way, which that's really steep. And besides that, I'm standing on the road. That's the way I came from, around that bend there. So from here, I'm going to call up waypoint 12. It looks like I got to climb up this ridge, though, to get up to the Appalachian Trail. So here we go. First, I'm going to 12, and I think I have 14 waypoints. But when I get up here, if I see an easy way to the AT, I'm just going to take it. .8 miles into my hike. The elevation here is 2740. I think I peaked out on my elevation. That's where I came from. Been following the road. I lost it for a short distance, but I'm standing back on it again. I'm approximately at my waypoint 12, and I'm headed to 13, which is that way. 1.9 miles into my hike. The elevation here is 2725. It's been rough going. It's getting nasty and thorny. That's where I came from. Back that way. I've been following the road pretty well though. So my GPS track along here should reflect the actual road location. I'm going to dial up the next waypoint 14. I'm approximately at waypoint 13. Let's see, I'm about, I've already dialed up 14. I've got about 400 more feet in this direction. I should run into the AT, hopefully. Two miles into my hike, the elevation here is 2710. I'm still following the road. I stopped here to look off to the left here. There's a rock wall and what looks like maybe a driveway heading off to the left. So I'm pretty beat though. I'm gonna keep pushing my way through to get to the AT because I still have to get back to my car, but I'll mark this location and see if it matches up with anything from the old maps. This is the way I'm headed, so I'm going to keep on going here. I got another about 300 feet to go. .1 miles into my hike. The elevation here is 2,700 feet. I'm back out on the AT. I finally broke through. That's where I came out that way. So that road is right back in there. And not too far in there. I'll have to measure it when I get home with my waypoints, but not too far in there. Maybe a tenth of a mile is one of the homesteads. So that's headed northbound, but I'm headed back to my car this way, southbound. Hiking southbound on the AT, this way. This is a map of today's hike. The quadrangle name is Swift Run Gap, 1997, and I was bushwhacking, looking for some old abandoned roads and a few homesteads, and this is on Roundtop Mountain, which is located right here. This is Skyline Drive, coming down from the north. And right here is Powell Gap. This is a mile marker 70. There's no parking lot here, but there's plenty of open grass here that you can park. You just pull off into the grass and park. And then right here is the Appalachian Trail. I got on the AT and started climbing Roundtop Mountain. Now the AT comes up here to this point number 1, and then it makes a sharp bend and continues around Roundtop Mountain like this over to Smith Roach Gap, which is here. But I noticed on an old 1937 map that I'll show you in a minute that there was a network of old roads in through here. So I drew this in myself on this map, and my waypoint callouts in the video correspond to these numbers here. Okay, here's point 1, point 2, point 3. When I got up to point 4, there was supposed to be an old homestead over here, but it was about 300 to 350 feet over there, and it was really overgrown, so I just skipped that. Continued up here and eventually crossed over the creek to point 6. Now, once I got across the creek, the well-maintained road stopped, and it turned itself into a trail. So it wasn't as wide. It was still fairly well maintained, though, as a trail, starting here at point 6 up to point 7. When I got up in this area, I started noticing that there was surveyor's tape attached to some of the trees. So I kept following that. I was heading up to point 8, but the surveyor's tape took me over here, which was the location of one of the homesteads, and I found this large cemetery there. So I got pictures of that, and eventually I found an old trace of an old road here heading up to point 10. So I skipped 8 and 9, or it's possible that actually 8 and 9 are a little bit further south, and I was actually on that. I'm not sure which, but anyway, I found an old road, came up here to point 10, eventually found the road up here, and then pretty much followed the road from 10 to 11 to 12. The further I got over this way, the nastier the hiking got, more and more thorns and undergrowth. By the time I got down here to 13, it was really thick undergrowth. At 13, I noticed a driveway heading over here to this homestead location. And then finally, I bushwhacked a 14, which was pretty close to the AT. When I got to 14, then I just started looking for the easiest way to get out of the jungle. Finally got back on the AT and followed that back to here, and then finally back down to my car. Well, let me go to the old map first before I wrap up here. Now, the actual coordinates for the old road is shown here on this map. This is Elkton, 1937. Here's Roundtop Mountain. Here's Powell Gap, where I started. And this is showing as a dashed line the old road. There's where it crosses the creek. Right there is the homestead with the cemetery. Up over here's my point 10, and then looping back around to here, and then I drew this dotted line in. This is the Appalachian Trail, where I completed my hike back to my car. So that was the 1937 map. Ended up being 3.6 miles. You can see it's pretty slow hiking, though. It took me 3 hours and 15 minutes to go 3.6 miles. That's pretty slow. And an ascent of 741 feet. And that was the hike for today.